The memorial service will start in 2 minutes. Please settle down. Kanina ba?
Ako ay Pilipino, ang dugo'y maharlika. Likha sa aking puso at ika'y ganda. Sa Pilipinas na aking bayan, lantay na perlas ng silanganan, wari na tipon ang kayamanan ng may kapal. Bigay sa aking Panginoon sa mabuti lang laan. Sa sa aking katutubo ang maging mapagmahal. Ako'y Pilipino, ako'y Pilipino, isang bansa, isang diwa, ang minimithi ko. Bayan ko't bandila, laan buhay ko't diwa. Ako'y Pilipino, Pilipino totoo. Ako'y Pilipino, ako'y Pilipino, taas loob kahit kanino ang Pilipino.
Invocation will be led by Honorable Linabel Ruth R. Villarrica, representative of the 4th District of Bulacan. May we request everybody to please rise.
God, our Creator, eternal and almighty Father, you are Lord over all. We come before you now in a final send-off to our beloved brother, our Manong, Jose de Venecia Jr. Thank you for our Manong Joe, whom we have at one time or another engaged with him at various stages in his life in this august hall. Trained as a journalist to pursue truth and engage others, his consensus building stabilized the legislature for the better part of 5 terms, much more than any who has ever gone before him. Raise among us more of Manong Joe's persuasion, who built bridges across divisions of ideology and faith in our nation, and made interfaith dialogue integral to the United Nations. Those whose life pursuit is peacemaking, like Manong Joe, you call blessed and children of God, irregardless of faith, gender, station in life, or race. It is so because by their decisions and actions, they mirror for us a glimmer of your boundary-breaking and fully encompassing grace. Hold close to your heart his grieving family, his loving wife, Gina, and children, Toph, Joey, Leslie, Vivian, and Sandra. You know them by name, as you know dear Casey, who is now joined by Manong Joe in your warm embrace. Lead us, Lord, to count our days to legislate measures that bring down divisions, so that we too may bring about peace that brings the fullness of being to our people. We pray that we magnify you in every way through our days on this earth, Lord, and thereafter to enjoy you forevermore. Amen.
You may take your seat now. The memorial service for the late Honorable Jose de Venecia Jr. will now commence. Fellow members of the House of Representatives, distinguished guests, and our fellow Filipinos, today we remember Jose de Venecia Jr., not only as a former Speaker of this House, but as a mentor, a colleague, and a statesman who devoted his life to the service of the Republic. He believed that laws are more than words on paper. They are promises made by the government to its people. Throughout his 5 terms as Speaker, he guided this institution with steadiness and vision, helping it rise to the demands of a nation emerging from upheaval and seeking lasting stability. Under his leadership, the House enacted laws that help shape the country's economic foundations. The Build, Operate, Transfer Law, which opened the door for private sector participation in building vital infrastructure. The Bases Conversion and Development Act of 1992, which transformed former military bases into thriving centers of commerce and industry. The new Central Bank Act, which strengthened the monetary stability through an independent Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, and the Special Economic Zone Act of 1995, which attracted investments and generated employment through the establishments of economic zones nationwide. These achievements reflect not only legislative foresight, but a steadfast commitment to policies that stimulate growth, create opportunities, and position the Philippines as a competitive economy in a global arena. The Secretary General will now read the order of proceedings.
Order of proceedings for the memorial service for the late Honorable Jose de Venecia Jr. Eulogy by Honorable Speaker Faustino Boji G.D. III, Representative of the 3rd District of Isabela in the 12th, 13th, and 14th Congresses, and Representative of the 6th District of Isabela in the 20th Congress.
Distinguished colleagues, mga kagalang-galang na kasamahan po natin sa Kongreso at Senado, the De Venecia family, friends, mga kapwa lingkod bayan. Ngayong araw, nagkakaisang kapulungan na may daladalang bigat sa dibdib, ngunit may malalim na pasasalamat. We gather as one house to honor a life that shaped this institution and influenced the course of our democracy. Nung kanyang huling araw, nagpaabot po ako ng pagbati kay Speaker Jose de Venecia Jr. We spoke of his years of service, of the firmness of his convictions, of the steadiness of his hand at the helm of this chamber, Ang mensaheng iyon ay puno ng pagdiriwang. Ngunit ngayon, ang parehong damdamin ay isang pagninilay at pagkilala sa bakas ng iniwan niya sa ating bayan. During his years as presiding officer of the House, Tito Joe showed us what it means to wield the gavel with purpose. 5 ulit siyang nahalal bilang speaker, isang patunay ng kakayahan at kagalingan na mahirap pong tumbasan. Nakasama ko po si Tito Joe simula 12, 13, and 14 Congress at may pagkakataon na may magkakaibang opinyon sa iba't ibang mga usapin. Subalit pagkatapos ng lahat, nananatili pa rin ang pagbigay galang sa isa't isa. Dahil dito, nakilala ko pong lubusan ang tunay na pagkatao ni Tito Joe. Malinaw po na ang sukatan ng kanyang pamumuno ay kung paano niya pinangangalagaan ang kanyang tungkulin sa ating bayan. Para sa akin, mataas ang pamantayan niya sa kanyang itinakda. He raised our expectations of dignity in conduct, discipline in stewardship, and fidelity to the nation above all else. Sa kanyang panahon, ang House of Representatives ay naging daan ng malalaking pagbabago. Economic reforms, major infrastructures policy, ang mga initiatives advanced under his leadership continue to shape the nation's trajectory. Higit pa dito, pinatatag niya ang kredibilidad ng institusyon. He ensured the House was an anchor in challenging times, steady when the country needed balance. Ang kanyang paraan ay simple, ngunit mabisa. Makinig, magpaliwanag, at magbuklod. Hindi siya umiiwas sa mainit na mga talakayan. Tinatanggap niya ito bilang bahagi ng demokrasya. He welcomed different perspective in the room and treated disagreement as an opportunity for clarity. Sa kanya, ang politika ay instrumento lamang. Ang kapakanan ng bayan ang laging nauna at nananaig. Sa kasalukuyan, hindi natin maikakaila ang daming hamon at ingay na nakapaligid sa atin. Partisan noise can easily distract from productive work. Sa mga ganitong sandali, ang kanyang alaala ay nagsisilbing gabay. He reminds us of a time when lawmakers could rise above party lines for the sake of the republic, when debate was vigorously yet civil, and when national interest outweighed personal gain. Ang kapulungan ngayon ay sinasalamin ang kanyang magandang mga halimbawa. We are called to stay focused on legislation, oversight, and service, regardless of the crosswinds of politics. Sapagkat ang pamumunong iniwan niya sa atin ay may malinaw na katangian. Tahimik, pero may paninindigan. Makatwiran, ngunit may kababaang loob. Bukas sa iba't ibang pananaw, subalit hindi lumilihis sa prinsipyo. Hindi rin natin malilimutan ang kanyang tungkulin sa pagsusulong ng kapayapaan at diplomasya. He engaged across regions and ideologies, believing that dialogue could open doors when confrontation closed them. He advanced parliamentary diplomacy in Asia, convinced that cooperation expands possibilities for all. Ang kanyang tiwala sa kakayanan ng Pilipino na magkasundo at magtulungan sa patuloy na nagbibigay ng direksyon sa atin. As we reflect on his life, we must ask ourselves, what's the legacy he leaves behind? He leaves us a house strengthened by experience. He leaves us a standard of statesmanship anchored in civility. He leaves us as a reminder that faith and governance are not enemies, but partners in moral leadership. Today, this chamber carries a quiet awareness of absence. The seat he once occupied now holds memory. Yet, the standards he established remain woven into the character of this house. His imprint is evident in the seriousness with which we approach our duties and in the trust we strive to uphold. Let us remember that democracy must be guarded, that institutions must be protected, that unity must be pursued, and that public service is an act of love. Sa kanyang pamilya, kay Congresswoman Tita Gina, sa kanyang mga anak at mga apo, we extend not only our condolences, but our heartfelt gratitude. Alam po namin na bilang lingkod bayan, minsan hindi po natin maiwasang masakripisyo ang mahalagang oras na nakatuon para sa pamilya dahil sa pananagutan natin sa ating bayan. Sa kabila nito, kayo po ang naging lakas ni Tito Joe sa bawat yugto ng kanyang paglilingkod. His love for his wife and for his children was apparent to all. In the midst of national responsibilities, he remained rooted in the sacredness of family. To the De Venecia family, thank you for sharing the life of Tito Joe with our kababayan. Thank you for the sacrifices unseen by the public eye. Thank you for standing beside him as he carried the burdens of leadership. Tito Joe served with conviction and grace. Sa kanyang mga kontribusyon sa ating bayan, nakita natin ang isang leader na nag-iwan ng matibay na pundasyon para sa susunod na henerasyon. And today, as we commend him to the mercy of our Lord, we do so with hope, not despair. May perpetual light shine upon him. May he rest in the loving embrace of the God he faithfully served. And may we, who continue the work of nation building, find courage in his example to lead not for applause, not for power, but for the welfare of the Filipino people. Your service to the Republic lives on. Your faith continues to inspire, and your legacy will guide generations yet to come. May you rest in peace with our loving God. Maraming salamat po, Tito Joe.
Eulogy by former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, former Vice President, former Speaker of the House of Representatives during the 17th Congress, and representative of the 2nd District of Pampanga in the 15th, 16th, 17th, 19th, and 20th Congresses.
Dear Gina and the entire De Venecia family, Speaker and Mrs. Boji, colleagues and friends, the man we honor today was a statesman, a colleague, and a man whose imprint on Philippine political life will endure for generations. Jose de Venecia Jr., popularly known as Jose or JDV or just Joe. I, for one, mourn his passing as a long-time political partner and also as part of a family whose ties to Joe are deep and long. Records tell us that he began his political career in 1961, when as a precocious 24-year-old, he served as spokesperson for the presidential campaign of candidate Diosdado Macapagal. Joe went on to become such an institution in our politics that many forget that before politics, he was a business pioneer in the 1970s. when still in his 30s. He would sometimes joke that he was the first OFW. Indeed, he was an early entrepreneur in deploying overseas workers, more than 50,000 of them to Saudi Arabia. He was also an entrepreneur in oil exploration. Early day investors in the Philippine stock market still remember Joe's corporate brand names as Basic or Land Oil. Let me share a legendary story about Joe, the entrepreneur. After the 1973 Arab-Israeli War, oil prices quadrupled. Saudi Arabia suddenly had vast petrodollars. Massive infrastructure projects followed. The port of Jeddah and Jubail became overwhelmed, and the Saudi government invited global firms to bid for port management. The biggest international companies sent their bids, yet to everyone's surprise, an unknown company led by Joe won. How? Joe realized that the large bidders had conventional mobilization plans, plans requiring months to build housing for thousands of workers before operations could begin. But Saudi Arabia needed immediate action. Joe's solution was bold. He went to Greece, bought a mothballed tourist ocean liner, and towed it to Saudi Arabia to serve as instant floating barracks. With housing sold, he could begin operations at once. Saudi Arabia needed speed. Joe offered speed, and he won. I think Joe's skills in business served to develop his skills in politics. Joe's instinct for timing, for understanding what the moment needed, and delivering it decisively followed him into the halls of Congress. I saw this firsthand in 1992. It was his first term as Speaker and my first term as Senator. Pampanga, Tarlac, and Zambales were struggling under the weight of the Mount Pinatubo eruption. Joe bypassed the usual calls for momentary charity. He used his position as Speaker to lead the legislation for a 10 billion allocation for the relief, recovery, and rehabilitation of the Pinatubo victims. An audacious sum at the time. It restored hope to millions in Central Luzon and the prosperity that my province of Pampanga enjoys today. Search Joe's name and three words appear: parliamentarian, statesman, peacemaker. It was my privilege to work with such a man. Joe and I ran together in 1998. When he stood as presidential candidate, I had the honor of being his vice presidential running mate. Campaigns not only test stamina, they also reveal character. In that campaign, I saw in Joe a leader of strategic vision, optimistic about our country, deeply invested in its future, unwavering in his belief that dialogue, institutions, and structural reform matter. Joe was an internationalist, not only in business, but in diplomacy. In the year 2000, he founded the International Conference of Asian Political Parties, ICAP, and his colleagues are here today to join in honoring him. He understood that building bridges between parties across borders was essential for a peaceful and integrated Asia. At the time, many participating parties, including our Lakas party, were in the opposition. But 4 years later, By the time, as president, I addressed the ICAP's General Assembly, many of those same parties were already governing in their respective countries. Joe understood that political dialogue must outlive electoral cycles. For Joe, coalition building was not a tactic, it was a philosophy. The philosophy that dialogue is stronger than division. He believed that in a diverse archipelago such as ours, governance needs inclusion, patience, and bridge building. He believed in consensus. He built the Rainbow Coalition. Joe served as speaker for most of the time that I was president. Our tenure coincided with years of terrorism at home and abroad, domestic reform, and difficult national choices. We worked closely, guided by a shared commitment to democratic institutions, political stability, and the country's strategic interests in a dynamic world. He instinctively understood the intertwine between our prosperity and security with the stability of our neighbors. After the tragedy of 9/11, it was Joe who came to me with a visionary recommendation: start a trilateral anti-terrorism agreement among the Philippines, Indonesia, and Malaysia. It was signed in early 2002. It was more than just a piece of paper. It was a pioneering framework for border security, intelligence sharing, and dialogue in the Celebes and Sulu Seas. It became a global model for regional cooperation, proving that Southeast Asia could secure its own house. Think regionally, act institutionally. That was Joe. Joe championed parliamentary dialogue and diplomacy. In 2006, when the Philippines chaired ASEAN, he created the ASEAN Interparliamentary Assembly, AIPA, giving Southeast Asia's legislatures a more coherent regional voice. For that achievement, last year, he received the AIPA Distinguished Service Award. We also have friends here from the United Peace Federation. Though Joe was not a founder, he was a very good friend of that federation. In 2007, columnist Belinda Olivares Conanan described our partnership, and I quote her: "It has been a unique political partnership of almost 10 years that has weathered all kinds of troubles. Because the union was strong and comfortable, it has been a steadying influence amid all the turbulence. The political partnership has also resulted in many economic and fiscal reforms that have contributed to the economic prosperity now being noted by many international agencies." The words of our mutual friend, Bel Punanan. Joe served multiple terms as speaker, the longest serving in our history, and a testament to endurance and skill. He had a love affair with Congress, not merely as a legislative chamber, but as a pillar of democracy. He knew the House not only in structure, but in spirit. He mastered the personalities, the presidents, and the delicate choreography and dialogue needed to move legislation forward. But beyond the strategist and statesman was the human being. Joe was warm, accessible. Some described him as Sunshine Joe. He carried himself with confidence, but never without courtesy. He understood that civility is not weakness, it is strength. He knew that today's adversary may be tomorrow's ally. For Gina, Casey up above, To, Joey, Vivian, Leslie, Sandra, and the entire family. We offer not only condolences, but gratitude. Behind every public figure stands a family whose patience and love make long years of service possible. That strength at home sustained Joe throughout his remarkable journey. Our time in public life is finite. What endures, the institutions we strengthen, and the example we leave behind. During the first night of Joe's wake, his nieces and nephews eulogized their core memories about him. In remembering Joe, let us remember as a core memory his unwavering belief in the power of dialogue over division. Now, God has granted Joe his well-earned rest from his political endeavors for the Filipino nation. The nation will bury him as the libingan ng mga bayani on the same ground as Fidel V. Ramos, whom he did so much for in becoming president, and my father, with whom he started his political career. It will be full circle. Farewell, Joe. Rest in peace, and thank you.
Eulogy by Honorable Manuel B. Villar Jr., former Speaker of the House of Representatives in the 11th Congress, former Senate President in the 13th Congress, former Senator in the 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th Congresses, former Representative of the Lone District of Las Piñas, Muntinlupa in the 8th, in the 8th and 10th Congresses, and former Representative of the Lone District of Las Piñas City in the 11th Congress.
Speaker Bojidi, and former speakers and other members of the House of Representatives and the Senate, former President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, the family of Honorable JDB, headed by Gina. I deliver these remarks not just as a former colleague, but as one who had the privilege of sharing with Jose de Venecia the burden and the joy of shaping our nation's path. When I served as Senate President, while he led the House, we stood on opposite ends of the same hall, but our purpose was united: to move the country forward despite politics, personalities, or pride. Joe had an unshakable love for the Philippines, a love that always drove him to find common ground. Joe believed that the highest duty of a public servant was to find a space where all sides could meet, where progress could begin. As a Speaker and leader of the 200 or so members of Congress, Manong Joe distinguished himself most brilliantly as a consensus builder. He had a rare ability to see beyond pride and politics. And he used that gift to turn disagreements into dialogue and dialogue into action. He built bridges across the aisle and across continents because he understood that the Filipino dream was larger than any quarrel or ambition. All remember population, energy, enthusiasm. master of retail, he wanted to help everyone. In the house and beyond, Joe's gift was to see possibility where others saw deadlock. He turned vision into motion and motion into results. For him, service was not a posture, but a practice. Steady, pragmatic, and always anchored in hope for our people. And today, as we say farewell, we honor not only a statesman, but a true patriot who spent his life proving that love of country is best measured by one's willingness to listen, to reconcile, and to carry on. Paalam, Manong Joe, at maraming salamat.
Eulogy by Honorable Feliciano Sani Belmonte Jr., former Speaker of the House of Representatives during the 11th, 15th, and 16th Congresses, and representative of the 4th District of Quezon City in the 9th, 10th, 11th, 15th, 16th, and 17th Congresses.
Honorable Speaker Faustino Boji D. III, CIPRD Chairperson Georgina Manegina de Venecia, former Representative Christopher de Venecia, former colleagues, members of the Philippine Congress, family, relatives, friends, ladies and gentlemen. We gather here today to honor and celebrate the extraordinary life of an exceptional leader, statesman, diplomat, husband, father, and a dear friend, Speaker Jose Claveria de Venecia Jr. Speaker JDV, or just JDV to many, and Joe to his contemporaries like me. Last December, I attended Joe's 89th birthday. I was very happy to have celebrated his last birthday with him, together with a few of our former colleagues, such as former Speaker Manny Villar, and surrounded by those whom he loved and who loved and respected him as much. None of us who were present there ever thought that he will be gone too soon. It was a little lively, actually, during that time. Since we both retired from politics, his birthday celebration was a welcome respite from the necro services we found ourselves attending, delivering eulogies for dear friends and colleagues who went before us. Since our retirement, we have not really been together as often as we used to. We were younger and very active in our country's politics. Indeed, his 89th birthday celebration, we're almost the same age, was a significant change from the necro services. Two more recent ones, of which were the late Carlos Mapili Padilla, a stalwart of the formidable Northern Alliance in Congress, where Joe was a respected leader and motivator. And the last one, for the late Edsel Lagman, whom we both admired and respected. Thus, sadly, as I heard of Joe's passing, I thought of how fleeting life is and how truly grateful I am for all the times I was privileged to work alongside him, be considered his friend. As I stand before you to pay tribute to Joe's legacy, I'm not only filled with profound gratitude for the moment we shared, the lessons learned, unwavering commitment, not only to our beloved Philippines and its people, but also to the entire ASEAN and the ASEAN community. His belief that Asia's future depends on its economic and political integration. Joe's exemplary vision of a united and stronger ASEAN Parliament, an expanded and interparliamentary platform, or his envisioned Southeast Asian Parliament led him to the founding of the ASEAN Asian Parliamentary Assembly, APA, and the transformation of the ASEAN Interparliamentary Organization, IPO, into the ASEAN Interparliamentary Academy, IPA. In a fitting recognition of his valuable services, outstanding contribution, and tireless efforts as president of IFA in 1994 and 2000, and his initiatives in establishing regional and global platforms for interparliamentary and political cooperation, including the International Conference of Asian Political Parties, Asian Parliamentary Assembly, and the International Association of Parliamentarians for Peace. IPA commended Speaker J. Davis' lifelong commitment to advancing parliamentary diplomacy, peace building, and the ASEAN integration by giving him the highest honor as awardee of the IPA Distinguished Service Award during last year's 45th IPA General Assembly in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. May Speaker JDB's exemplary vision of ASEAN and Asian Parliament become a reality, for only when smaller nations unite can they create ripples that will make a difference in the lives of their citizens. Speaker Jody was not just a visionary and remarkable politician. He was a statesman and a diplomat par excellence, a true servant of the Filipino people. Throughout his illustrious career, he embodied the qualities of integrity, dedication, resilience, and hard work. He served as a beacon of hope in challenging times, striving tirelessly to uplift the lives of our citizens. Even when he was out of politics, he never stopped working, caring, and forging a brighter future for our beloved Philippines. Joe's journey into public services was marked by an unwavering passion for peace, democracy, and progress. As the longest-serving Speaker of the House of Representatives, he championed critical legislation that paved the way for economic growth, social reforms, and international committee. He understood that leadership is not just about holding a post, but connecting them with people, addressing their needs, and advocating for their rights. You know, I remember the first time I saw Joe DeV, I couldn't believe because he was already known as a diplomat at that time. And I saw him for the first time in Malacanang during the presidency of former President Diosdado Macapagal. And I was talking with him, and he looked so young. I said, guys, it's been a ambassador to Iraq, going to all sorts of countries, been to Vietnam. And I couldn't believe it. How could this guy, I said, be able to have accomplished all of this? But that was it. And uh, he didn't look like a big shot at the time when we were there because he was very humble, chatting, chatting, chatting. I was a reporter at the time, so we were, we had our time together. And then, of course, his career as an ambassador also to places like Vietnam. That really was very staggering as far as I was concerned. His tenure was defined by his relentless pursuit for unity. He believed that through collaboration and dialogue, we could rise above our differences and work towards common goals. In an era often marked by division, he was a proponent of inclusivity and mutual respect. He often reminded us that our responsibility as leaders is to listen as much as we speak, to build bridges, and to foster understanding among all Filipinos. Thus, the Rainbow Coalition that started during his speakership became the benchmark for all the speakers that were re-elected after him, myself included. Aside from his significant contributions to the political arena, Speaker Jose de Venecia was a man of deep faith and family values. He cherished the bonds of his loved ones, always emphasizing that at the heart of every successful leader lies a support system rooted in love, trust, and respect. His anchor, his ever-supportive wife, Chairperson and Representative Manay Gina, their children and family had set an example for all of us to learn how to balance the demands of public service with the responsibilities of family life. As we remember and reflect upon his legacy, it is essential that we carry forward his ideals. Let us continue to strive for the values he championed: peace, integrity in governance, compassion for those we serve, and a relentless commitment to progress. We must honor his memory, not only with words, but with actions that reflect his dedication to our country and the international community. Joe leaves behind a rich legacy, one that will undoubtedly inspire future generations of leaders. His passion for public service, his unwavering belief in the goodness of our people, and his commitment to peace and for fostering a better society will forever resonate in our hearts and minds. To the De Venecia family, relatives and friends, Gina, Toff, please know that you are not alone in this time of sorrow. We share in your grief, and we stand with you as we celebrate the life of a great man. Thank you for sharing Joe's life with us and for consistently supporting Joe's dedicated and selfless service to our country and the Filipino people. As we bid farewell to Speaker Joe Claveria de Venecia Jr., let us remember him, not with sadness, but with gratitude. For the indelible mark he has left on our lives, our nation. May he rest in peace, knowing that his legacy will continue to guide our leaders in our shared journey towards a peaceful, brighter, and prosperous Philippines, and a more united, effective, and stronger ASEAN and the Asian community. Godspeed, Manong Joe, Speaker JDV. Thank you. for all you have done and every Filipino and for our country.
Eulogy by Honorable Ferdinand Martin G. Romualdez, former Speaker of the House of Representatives in the 19th and 20th Congresses, former Majority Leader in the 18th Congress, and representative of the 1st District of Leyte in the 14th, 15th, 16th, 18th, 19th, and 20th Congresses.
Speaker Faustino Bojidi, to the Venecia family, my colleagues, fellow Filipinos, there are moments in life of a nation when words feel small before the magnitude of a life well lived. Today, we gather in this chamber not merely to mourn the passing of former Speaker Jose de Venecia Jr., but to honor a man whose name has become inseparable from the very story of this House. Speaker Joe was not simply a presiding officer in Congress. He was a founder, a builder, a unifier. He was one of the fathers of Lakas when it was still Lakas Tao, then Lakas NUCD, at a time when our democracy was finding its footing once more. He did not build a party for power. He built a movement for purpose. And in so doing, he helped shape a generation of leaders who believe that governance must be inclusive, reform-driven, and anchored in national unity. As a speaker for 5 terms, he transformed this institution, and under his leadership, the House became what it ought to be, a forum where every legislative district, every island, every province, every city had a voice at the table. He believed that the strength of the Republic was measured not by the dominance of a few, but by the participation of all. He was the father of the Rainbow Coalition, a phrase that will forever belong to him. But the Rainbow Coalition was not merely a political strategy. It was a philosophy of governance. It was the recognition that in a democracy as diverse as ours, Christian and Muslim, North and South, majority, minority, progress is achieved not by exclusion, but by consensus. He brought together representatives across party lines, across ideologies, across regions, and he forged agreements that allowed this House to enact reforms that shaped our economy, strengthened our institutions, and advanced social justice. House Resolution number 247, adopted by this chamber, records for history his distinguished service and significant contributions to the country. But no resolution can fully capture what we, who sat with him, debated with him, learned from him, and were guided by him, know to be true. That his leadership was grounded in respect, equal respect for every member of this House, regardless of affiliation. He was a consensus builder in the noblest sense. He did not silence dissent, he harmonized it. He did not diminish differences, he reconciled them. In an era where division often threatens institutions, he demonstrated that unity is not weakness, it is strength disciplined by wisdom. And yet, Speaker Joe's vision did not stop at our shores. He was a global Filipino, a visionary who understood that the Philippines must not only participate in the international community, but to help shape it. Long before interfaith dialogue became a global imperative, he was already advocating unity among Christians, Muslims, and believers of all traditions. He initiated dialogues at the United Nations. He opened channels of communication between governments and insurgents. He believed that faith properly understood is not a source of conflict, but a bridge towards peace. In a world fractured by ideology and religion, he insisted that dialogue was not optional, it was necessary, and he carried that conviction not as rhetoric, but as a mission. Here at home, this house has enshrined his legacy in enduring form. The Jose de Venecia Museum, the first of its kind, stands within this complex as a living testament to his life of service. It is not merely a collection of memorabilia, it is a reminder to every member of the House who walks these halls that leadership is stewardship, that office is temporary, but legacy is lasting. The titles fade, but integrity endures. I had the honor of being the principal author of the House resolution that formally expressed this institution's gratitude for his lifetime of service. I just did so not only as Speaker of the House, but as President of Lakas CMD, a party he helped found, nurture, and guide. It was my way of ensuring that history would remember what we all know, that he was one of the great architects of modern Philippine parliamentary leadership. But beyond titles, beyond the resolutions, beyond the museum, we remember the man. We remember his laughter in the corridors. We remember his patience during heated debates. We remember his capacity to listen, truly listen before deciding. We remember his steady presence when storms, political or otherwise, tested this institution. He taught us that power must be exercised with humility, that conviction must be tempered by compassion, that leadership must be anchored in faith, not just religious faith, but faith in the Filipino people. Today, House members from every legislative district, from every political persuasion, stand united in grief and in gratitude. That unity in this solemn hour may well be his final gift to us. Speaker Joe once proved that a rainbow is not made of one color. It is made precisely beautiful because of its diversity. The house he leaves behind reflects that truth. And the nation he served continues to strive toward that unity he so passionately believed in. To Manay Gina, to Pong Tof, to the entire De Venecia family, your loss is immeasurable, but so too is the nation's gratitude. Former Speaker Jose de Venecia Jr. has taken his final bow, but the ideals he lived for, unity, peace, dialogue, reform, remain. And as long as this House stands, as long as representatives gather here in pursuit of the common good, his spirit will not be absent. He built bridges, he built consensus, he built institutions, he built hope. And in so doing, he built a legacy that will endure far beyond his years. May we prove worthy of it. Thank you, Speaker Jose de Venecia Jr. Wala yun.
Eulogy by Senator Juan Miguel F. Zubiri, Senator of the Republic of the Philippines in the 14th, 15th, 17th, 18th, 19th Congresses, former Senate President in the 19th Congress, and Senate Majority Leader in the 17th, 18th, and the current 20th Congresses, and former Representative of the 3rd District of Bukidnon in the 11th, 12th, and 13th Congresses.
To the De Venecia family, to Ninang Gina, belated happy birthday, Ninang, to the whole family, to all the dignitaries that are here this morning, all the presidents, Senate presidents, speakers of the House, and all the members of Congress. Whenever I look back at the time, or my time here in the House of Representatives, our beloved Manong Joe looms large in my memories. Actually, I have so much memories to share. I can't do it in less than 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Sitting up there, looking at Tito Joe, sitting on the rostrum, always firm but magnanimous in his leadership, and giving the most eloquent of speeches in true statesman-like quality and extemporaneously. Very difficult to find leaders like that today. Extemporaneously. Captivating the audience for hours in this very chamber. Speaker Jose de Venecia Jr. was a political visionary like no other. His vision was simple: the Filipino people united as one. But his genius was in how he drew people together. As a leader, he led not by force, not by iron fist. He led by listening, sitting down with us as equals. He made decisions with us, not for us. That is how he got everyone together for the Rainbow Coalition. But many of you don't know this, but he also created another one called the Sunshine Coalition in the 12th Congress. That is how he was elected the Speaker of the House of Representatives 5 times. A historic 5 times that I think would not be done again. He would allow us to shine in these very halls. That's why so many of us at that time were elected to the Senate. Because he did not stifle dissent. He had no mean bone in his body. As a matter of fact, people were already insulting him in this chamber, and he would always ask us to come down with him, pull that fellow aside, and he would talk to him personally, one-on-one. Kung ano man ang kasalanan niya, ano man ang pagkakulang niya, aayusin niya. I had the privilege of serving as his Secretary General at Lakas CMD, at hindi ko makakalimutan ang lagi niyang sinasabi, together with hand gestures, that we should take the people from the left and the right and put them together. He would do that in the rostrum all the time, and even in his office. But really, he was truly a leader of the centrist Democrats in Asia. What a simple but radical mission. In a world that finds comfort in division, today it's either you're in the left or you're in the right, you're liberal or conservative, red, blue, so divided. He saw that genuine change is only achievable when people have the courage to step beyond arbitrary lines. That was his vision at that time. And he engineered avenues for us all to take the step toward a more united future. Talagang humanga po ako sa kanyang leadership style, especially since I was just a young member of the House of Representatives at the time. I was his spice boy, together with Ace Barbers, the late Nonoy Andaya. We were the spice boys of then President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, Mike Defensor, Nani Braganza, Ricky Sandoval. We, of course, were in the minority in the 11th Congress, headed by our very own, my ninong, Sonny Belmonte. This is where we shine. And we had that opportunity in the 12th Congress to come up with a Sunshine Coalition and made Speaker Tito Joe become the Speaker of the House once again. It was a blessing for me to learn so much lessons from Manong Joe. He himself being one of the best, and I consider him a mentor. I only consider a few people my mentor in politics, and Ninong Joe, Tito Joe, was a mentor. Sa Senado nga po, tantsaw nila sa akin, ako daw si Jose de Venecia Jr. Tanong mo kina Sherwin, yan ang tantsaw nila sa akin. Dahil daw palagi ako nagsasabi na kailangan natin ng caucus, ng consultation, at ng consensus building. I learned so much from Tito Joe. Dala ko yan palagi, lalo ako naging Senate President. I also did my version of the Sunshine Coalition, wherein we had the biggest majority in 2022 of 22 members of the majority, only 2 members in the minority. I learned that from no other than Tito Joe, by carrying his legacy forward. Late last year, we had the wonderful opportunity in inviting Tito Joe and Ninang Gina to the Senate so we could present him with a resolution commending him for his service to the country. I'm glad that we were able to do that and celebrate it with him while he was still with us. I'm so happy that we did it last year and he got to feel the love of so many of us that were under his leadership. Now, as he joins his beloved Casey up in heaven, he can rest easy knowing that he leaves a beautiful legacy for the country behind him. From one of your Spice Boys, Tito Joe, maraming salamat po. And may God bless the family. Thank you.
Senator Subiri will now present a resolution adopted by the Senate, Resolution number 38, entitled Resolution Honoring the Life and Legacy of the Honorable Jose de Venecia Jr., former Speaker of the House of Representatives and venerable statesman, and expressing the Senate's deepest sympathies and condolences upon his passing. May we invite the other senators to join the Honorable Subiri in the presentation of the Senate resolution to the bereaved family. Eulogy by Senator Loren Legarda, former President pro tempore of the Senate and Senator of the Republic of the Philippines in the 11th, 12th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 19th, and 20th Congresses, and former Representative of the Lone District of Antique and Deputy Speaker in the 18th Congress.
Pinakitang pinakamatandang senador mula pa sa 10th or 11th Congress. But anyway, House Speaker Boji T and former President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, and esteemed speakers of the House of Representatives, my colleagues in the Senate, Manay, my dear friend Gina de Venecia, Kong Toff, and the de Venecia Vera Perez families, colleagues in government. How do we measure the life of a man who always seemed to stand at the crossroads of our nation's history? Today, I speak not only as a senator of the Republic, but as one of the many whose paths were defined by the generosity and faith of former Speaker Jose de Venecia Jr. He was our beloved Manong Joe, a statesman to the world, a peacemaker in times of division, but to many of us, a mentor and a friend. I probably would not be your four-term senator today if way back in 1997, Manong Joe had not brought me into the Lakas party. I was then a very young 37-year-old journalist, far from imagining a career in the Senate. He believed in my capabilities long before I did. He shared his knowledge and wisdom, opened doors that I did not even knew existed. insisted that my voice and the voices of everyday Filipinos have a place in the great conversation about our nation's future. What I will remember most is not his unprecedented 5 terms as speaker, nor the many global organizations he founded and led across Asia, Europe, and the world. I will remember the quiet conversations, the sincere words of encouragement, the way he made you feel that your work and your voice mattered. When he told you that you could do much more, you believed him because he had already given so much of himself to the country he loved. In one of his recent articles, Manong Joe wrote, and I quote, "Public office is both a privilege and a crucible. It tests your resolve, challenges your principles, and demands sacrifices not only from you, but also from your loved ones," unquote. Those words ring painfully true today. They remind us that behind every achievement in his long career stood a man who knew the cost of service to himself and to his devoted wife, Manay Gina, to their children, to the family that shared him with the nation. His reflection is also a gentle reminder that all of us who remain in public service, in public life, that the position we hold now is indeed temporary, but the integrity with which we bear its burdens will outlast us. Manong Joe, or JDV, lived that truth. He helped steer our country through turbulent post-martial law years, building the Rainbow Coalition that enabled long-needed reforms to pass and helped to heal the fractures in our democracy. He championed laws that converted former military bases into engines of economic development, opened our economy to new partnerships, and gave overseas Filipinos a dignified way to support their families. He reached out to those who once stood on the other side of conflicts, not because it was convenient, but because he believed that peace, however challenging, was always worth taking a risk for. Yet if you spoke with him away from the podiums and the plenary halls, he did not talk first about history or legacy. He talked about people. The farmer who would gain from a new law or even from an economic zone. The overseas worker whose remittances would put a child through school. The young public servant who only needed one word of encouragement to keep going. For him, politics was never simply about power. It was about building bridges between parties, between religions, between generations, so that the republic he so loved could endure and become more humane, more inclusive, more at peace with itself. We mourn today not only the country's loss of a brilliant leader and a global statesman, but my own loss of a mentor and a dear friend. I will miss the many meetings with Gina, dinners and lunch and out-of-town trips, the thoughtful, wise advice, the gentle but firm reminders that we can always do better for our people. I will miss the way he could see beyond the crisis of the moment and speak instead of the kind of future we want for our country and of our shared responsibility to bend it towards justice and peace. To my dear Gina, celebrated her birthday yesterday at the young age of 77, 12 years younger than Manong. To the whole Vera Perez and De Venecia families, please know that we share your grief, but we also share your honor and your pride. In 2024, the Senate has already spoken in a resolution that honors former House Speaker Jose de Venecia Jr.'s illustrious career and his invaluable contributions to the country. I was so honored to have principally authored that resolution. Today, I wish simply to add a more personal note that his greatest legacy is not only the institutions he built or the laws he passed, but the men and women he encouraged, and that includes me of more than 25 years ago. The younger leaders he formed, the faith in this republic that he passed on to all of us. Thank you, Gina, for giving me the opportunity to say goodbye 10 minutes before he passed away. Thank you for that thoughtful call. And you even said, ikaw na lang inaantay ni Manong mag-goodbye ka. And I'm glad I looked out the window, took a good selfie video, and said goodbye, showing my gratitude for the life so well lived. Rest in peace, our dear Manong Joe. We will honor you best, not by our words today, but by the way we choose to serve our country every day. Thank you.
Eulogy by Senator Win Gatchalian, Senator of the Republic of the Philippines in the 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th Congresses, and former representative of the 1st District of Valenzuela City in the 12th and 16th Congress.
My sincere condolences to Tita Gina, to Toff, to the rest of the family. Thank you for the opportunity to honor Speaker De Venecia with all of you today. Many of us here remember Speaker JDV for his warmth, his ability to put people at ease, and for his gift for making people feel validated, seen, and acknowledged. But more than these impressions, what remains with me are the lessons of his leadership left behind. 3 realizations stand out. And the first literally takes me back to the beginning. He was my first speaker when I entered public service. This was during the aftermath of EDSA 2, after public protests created the conditions for a change in government. The House elected JDB to the speakership in February, very shortly after President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo took her oath of office. Mabilis ang mga pangyayari noong panahong iyon, but the House environment was stable. This was not accidental. It was because of the steady leadership of JDV. He understood that institutions must continue to function even after great strain. Natutunan ko sa kanya na kapag hindi malinaw ang nangyayari sa paligid, ang leader dapat ang pinakakalmado. Leadership means being the rally point that resolves normalcy so that the work of serving the public can continue. JDV's calmness was matched equally by his diplomacy. Speaker De Venecia had a remarkable skill for helping people find common ground. He was able to get people to compromise, not for the sake of compromising, but to find the best and the most lasting solutions. Nowhere was consensus for the common good more evident than in the Rainbow Coalition. It was a broad alliance that really cut across party lines, from Lakas to Liberal Party to the National People's Coalition and Kilusang Bagong Lipunan, deliberately built for the purpose of legislative stability and reform. Under Speaker JDV's guidance, the coalition enabled the passage of transformative laws. The Basis Conversion Development Act of 1992 balanced national economic goals and the effects of economic disruption on local communities when the U.S. bases were closed. This paved the way for turning former military sites into engines of civilian growth. The Build, Operate, and Transfer Law created a framework that reconciled the country's urgent infrastructure needs with the private sector's concerns over accountability and private sector participation. The same coalition advanced the new Central Bank Act, which strengthened monetary stability, and the Higher Education Act of 1994, which created the Commission on Higher Education and professionalized tertiary education governance. Finally, Speaker De Venecia knew the value of positioning our country to be ready to meet the challenges of the changing world. He was a leader with a global perspective who understood that globalization was not just a concept, but a reality that brought concrete consequences to the daily lives of Filipinos. This perspective was reflected in the passage of the Migrant Workers and Overseas Filipino Act of 1995. The law institutionalized protections for overseas Filipino workers by mandating that they be employed only where their rights are protected. Safeguards against illegal recruitment were put in place, as well as provisions for social services and legal support. This was forward-thinking, responsive legislation that prepared the nation for the future. Even as he led the House of Representatives, JDV remained deeply connected to his roots in Pangasinan. 6 na termino siyang nanungkulan bilang kinatawan ng ika-4 na distrito ng Pangasinan, kasama ang kanyang katuwang sa buhay na si Congresswoman Gina. Their collective commitment to public service reflected a partnership grounded in trust, dedication, and mutual respect. He was a leader, a husband, a father, and a man of faith. Those who know him best call him simply Manong Joe. As we pay tribute to him in the halls he served so well, let us honor his legacy of leadership that flowed from his character. Calm in crisis, open in dialogue, and faithful in service to the nation. Thank you, JDV, for showing us that it is possible to bring people from different backgrounds together and open the door for genuine progress. We will honor your life by following your lead and create a stronger, more stable country for future generations. Maraming salamat, Speaker JDV. Hindi ka namin makakalimutan.
Eulogy by Honorable Conrado M. Estrella III, Secretary of the Department of Agrarian Reform, former representative of the 6th District of Pangasinan in the 8th, 9th, 12th, 13th, and 14th Congresses, former representative of Abono Party List in the 16th, 17th Congresses, and in the 18th Congress as Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Tita Gina, and the members of the De Venecia family, and of course, all the distinguished friends of the late Speaker Manong Joe De Venecia. Ladies and gentlemen, hindi na sana ako pupunta eh. Because it's unfair. Nandito ako sa burol niya. Pero sa burol ko, hindi naman siya pupunta. But anyway, my first experience with the natatawa si Congressman. My first experience with the late Speaker, Manong Joe. Kasi nakilala ko na lahat ng mga congressman sa Pangasinan. Way back in 1987, the 8th Congress, we were all together with the Speaker. And hindi pa Speaker, si Manong Joe nun. Nakilala ko na si Congressman Orbos ng 1st District. Nakilala ko na si kumpare ko, si Joe, Congressman Joe ng 2nd District. Nakilala ko na rin yung sa 3rd District, si Tata Paping. Nakilala ko na rin si, siyempre, sa 5th, yung uncle ko, namatay na. And then ako sa 6th noon. I have not met yet Speaker Congressman Jose de Venecia. I've been hearing a lot about him. So many nice things about him. And then sabi ko kay Joe Bengson, Congressman Joe Bengson, kumpadre, di ko pa nami-meet si Speaker de Venecia, sabi ko. Andyan, punta ka doon sa South Wing. Nandyan yan. Makikita mo yan dyan. Nakita ko lang yung picture niya sa sabi ko. Pero how do I distinguish him? Sabi sa akin ni kumpare Joe Bengson, madali mong makilala yan. Makikita mo yung tenga niya. Tapos tignan mo yung kilay niya. Parang yung karakter sa Mahjong. Tignan mo yung pantalon niya. High waist yan. Yan, siya na yan, sabi niya. Pagpasok ko sa South Wing, nakita ko siya. Ito na nga, sabi ko. Butterfly ears, Mahjong set of eyebrows. Tapos nagpakilala na ako. Sir, sabi ko sa kanya, ako yung apo ni Tata Kundring. Ako si Congressman Conrad Estrella III, sabi ko. At sabi niya, oh, ikaw pala ang apo ni Kundring, sabi niya. Oho, sabi niya. Asa ba lakad mo? Sabi niya, may lakad ka ba ngayon? Wala naman, sir. Andito lang, sa session, sabi ko. And then he said, bigla-bigla, first time ako nakilala, sabi niya sa akin, alika, sumama ka sa akin. You join me. In Pangasinan, he said, Mila Kaitsak, meron tayong pupuntahan, sabi niya. Saan, sir? Basta sumama ka, sabi niya. And tatawagan ko lang yung driver ko, sabi ko. Wag mo nang tawagan yung driver mo. You ride in my car. Sabi niya. So, ako naman, uto-uto rin. Siyempre, statesman yun. Nakinig ako. I rode with him in his car. Halika, sumama ka sa akin. Sabi niya. Iti-train kita. Sabi niya. Alam mo kasi, sabi niya, towards the end of the year, yan mga cabinet members, yan mga offices, yan mga departments, merong savings yan. Lalo na sa DPWH. So, I didn't know that. I didn't realize there was such a thing as savings because I was a neophyte congressman at that time. I was only 26 years old. So, sabi niya sa akin, alika, sumama ka. Sabi niya, ipapakilala kita. So we went to DPWH. I cannot recall who the secretary of DPWH then. Pinakilala niya ako. Ito, si Congressman Estrella, batang-bata ito. Nasa oposisyon yan, sabi niya. Imagine, he even emphasized, because I ran under KBL, that was the time when nobody wanted to touch KBL with a 10-foot pole. So, sabi niya, kahit nasa KBL yan, yung batang yan, tulungan mo. Sabi niya doon sa secretary. So, I hitched a ride and it was a very productive ride. Sabi niya sa akin, yan, first lesson na. Sabi niya, tatandaan mo yan. Pagkatapos nito, so I was able to get projects because of him. Pagkatapos nito, sabi niya, lahat ng pupuntahan mong department, because you will do a lot of legwork, huwag ka munang mag-utos ng mga liaison officers. Kasi ang liaison officers, they will not be respected. Ikaw mismo ang magpunta. Pagsipagan mo, sabi niya. And so, I never sent any liaison officer because of him. And sabi niya, oh, kunin mo na yung birthday niyan, mga yan. Sabi niya, kunin mo na yung mga important events sa buhay nila. He taught me that, Tita Gina. And because of that, oo nga, ginawa ko nga. So I spoke to the department heads, kinuha ko ang mga birthdays nila, and tuwing birthday nila, nagpapadala ako ng regalo. Sana sa birthday ko rin, yung mga congressman dito, tandaan ninyo. That was the reason why I was able to establish a very effective network in government. Salamat, Tito Joe. Salamat, Manong Joe, sa itinuro mo sa akin. I will not forget that. And then, there was one incident na pinuntahan ko siya dun sa bahay. And Tita Gina, I don't know how Tito Joe was able to convince you to always accept visitors 24/7. Nagugulat ako dun sa bahay nila, speaker. Hanggang sa kwarto nyo, nakakaabot pa ang mga bisita. There was a time when the speaker doesn't feel well. Pinaakyat pa ako sa kwarto, Conrad, ano ba yun? And he was not feeling well. So, napuntahan ko na yung bahay nyo, lahat ng corner. Memoryado ko na eh. So, when I went there were many congressmen lined up. Congressmen, congresswomen, and even local government officials from different provinces. And because I had to line up also, even if I'm from Pangasinan. Pinapanood ko siya. Oh, ano yun? Anong problema mo? Sige. Aksyonan niya kagad. Melinda, tawagan mo si ganito. Alam ko na yun eh. Dahil habit na yun. Andyan sila lahat sa likod eh. Kuminsan, Nelson, yung sa Pangasinan, ganito. Kung sino-sino, alam na niya yan. Si Crisel ba yun? Si, what's her name again? Yeah. Meron siyang mga inutusan eh. Tawagan mo si secretary ganito. Tawagan mo si general ganito. Tatawagan niya kagad. Okay na yung problema mo. Ito, mag-usap kayo. Papakausap niya kagad. Ina-aksyonan agad. He does not only give lip services. Pero, kapag nakita niya wala nang yung mga job seekers na nadatnang ko doon, na gustong maging head ng mga agency, kung minsan, kahit hindi naman qualified, sinasagot na lang niya. He just humors them by saying, sige, hanapan kita ng pwesto. Pag hindi ako makahanap ng pwesto para sa iyo, itong pwesto ko, bigay ko sa iyo. That was Speaker Joe. And I learned that from him. And that's why kung merong pumupunta kagad doon sa opisina, even when I was congressman and up to now that I am member of the cabinet, basta may tumatawag doon, may pumupuntang congressman, I try my best to address it as soon as possible. Again, Speaker Joe, thank you for that lesson. Tatandaan ko parati yan. The example that you have showed me, I am following it now. And then there was, again, another time when I visited the house of Tita Gina and the speaker. There was even a time nung lumipat na kayo sa Forbes and meron siyang barber, ano dun eh, nagpapagupit. Meron siyang barbero na dun, mini barber shop siya dun. And then there were times na dun sa opisina niya, pinupuntahan ko. And then, all of a sudden, lo and behold, I see people who have been lambasting him, who have been criticizing him, who have been hitting him even in public. Speaker, sabi ko, di ba yan bumabanat sa inyo yan noon? Oh, dito, sabi ko. O pati yan. Ilang beses na yan, natsyempohan ko. Sabi niya, alam mo yan, Conrad, sabi niya, huwag ka na magtanim ng galit. Oo, tumitira sa atin yan mga yan noon. Pero tignan mo, tumutulong naman tayo sa kanila ngayon. Kaya, mas mabuti pa, Conrad, sabi niya, huwag ka na magtanim ng galit. Kasi kung magtatanim ka ng galit, ikaw din naman ang magsasuffer because you will carry the burden. Again, Speaker Joe, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the lessons that I have learned from you. And I will pass this on to the next generations of the Estrellas. Speaker, sana makuha ko rin yung pagkawiti ninyo. Kasi naalala ko noon, nung sinabi ko, Speaker, ang ganda naman ng Amerikana nyo. He loves to wear nice suits. Pati yung korbata niya maganda. Ganda ng suit nyo, Mr. Speaker. Ang ganda ng Amerikana nyo. Ang sagot niya sa akin. Kaya ako naggaganito para hindi mahalatang wala akong pera. And then, I brought my mayors to him. Kinausap niya, in-entertain niya. And then sinabihan pa niya yung mga mayors, susunod, pupunta kayo dito. Sasabihin niyo sa akin. Dahil, alam naman ninyo, pag tiga Pangasinan, ibo-blow out ko kayo sa restaurant na hindi baling, hindi masarap, basta mahal. That's the speaker. He always makes you smile. So, Speaker, Joe, the people of Pangasinan will always be proud of you. Not because you are a 5-time speaker, you are par excellence diplomat, you are the author of Rainbow Coalition. No. We will be proud of you, not because you are a Speaker de Venecia. We will be proud of you because you are our Manong Joe de Venecia. See you when we see you, Speaker. Thank you.
Eulogy by Honorable Manuel Mar A. Rojas II, former Senator of the Republic of the Philippines in the 13th and 14th Congresses, and former Majority Leader of the House of Representatives in the 11th Congress, representative of the 1st District of Capiz in the 9th, 10th, and 11th Congress.
Manay Gina, Toff, Joey, members of the De Venecia and Vera Perez families, Speaker Bojidi, Madam President, distinguished personages, members of the House, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Manay, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity, and as well to your family, to convey my condolences here and be a part of this tribute for Manong Joe. A lot already has been said. I'll try and start from the other end of the arc. Remember the days when PAL meant plane always late? Before 1992, only some 15,000 passengers flew our skies every day. Last year, 170,000 passengers flew over the Philippines every day, bringing commerce, tourism, and person-to-person contact all over our country. Remember the days when you had to make suhol to get a telephone line? May kaparty line pa. In 1992, there were only 56,044 cellular subscriptions in the whole country. Para lang sa may mga may kaya. Last year, there were some 133 million active mobile subscribers, democratizing communication, making it easier, more reliable, and cheaper, and enabling business and livelihood and learning all across our country. Remember the days when we had 12-hour blackouts and constant power outages. In 1992, we had a highly concentrated, state-dominated monopoly in power generation, transmission, distribution, and exploration. Since then, we enabled the entry of independent power producers, the BOT mechanism for mobilizing private resources towards public goods, the foundations for EPIRA, and so on. Now, we have greater stability in power supply, the interconnection of Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, and more capital and technology entering the sector. And so on, in the fields of shipping and ports, the downstream oil industry, banking and finance, selected manufacturing, trade and tariffs, water services, strategic assets like Fort Boni, BGC now, PNB, Petron, National Steel, and even the devolution to local government. All these did not happen just like that. All these needed the long, tedious, painstaking processes of legislation, IRRs, government issuances, the messy sausage making of government. All these needed a shepherd, a mechanic, a visionary, a leader. All these required a JDV. JDV put the bones, meat, and sinew into Philippines 2000. From monopolies, we got competition. From price controls, market pricing. From capital entry restrictions, private and foreign investment. From the sick man of Asia to a Philippines with a better future. The legislation he led, enabled, and supported unleashed the energies of our people and gave our country a better than even chance at modernity. The battle cries of liberalization, deregulation, privatization, and devolution were operationalized and birthed into being through Joe D.V.'s commitment and efforts. In this very hall, September 1, 1993, some 33 years ago, JDV administered my oath as a freshman member of the House. You might say I was then an ambivalent, in-transit politician. I was a reluctant panakipbutas, a compromise candidate to fill the seat vacated by my brother Dingoy, who died of cancer earlier in the year. I was a neophyte, and because I came in through a special election together with Manong Edel Amante of Agusan, I didn't have an office, committee assignments, friends, batchmates, nor did I know the workings of Congress. but I soon learned there was free merienda every afternoon at the South Lounge. Soon thereafter, Manong Joe called me to his office and said, "You don't know me and you are new here, but I will help you. And if you learn and work hard, you can do many good things for our people." Thereafter, because of my background in venture capital and investment banking, he began the process of creating a subcommittee for entrepreneurship under the Committee of Trade and Industry. I demurred and even protested, but Manong Joe said something that I will always remember to this day. Everyone deserves a place under the sun. It was his way of motivating and encouraging me and all that he worked with. And I saw how, starting with but a few congressmen, he crafted this principle into the juggernaut Rainbow Coalition that produced one of the most consequential and successful legislative agendas in our country's history. JDV was, to use Theodore Roosevelt's construct, the man in the arena. The man who actually steps forward to try, who acts, risks failure, gets criticized, but still and all, the man who shows up. The courageous man who believes that doing something, even if imperfectly, is more honorable and worthwhile than never trying at all. And so here we are, JDV, Joe de Venecia, Speaker Joe, Manong Joe, to so many of us. He lies here in state in the house he loved so much and to which he gave so much of himself. The time will come when all of us will be lying in state, as Manong Joe is right now. Some will be brought here, some in other august chambers of our nation. And when it is our turn, what will those at the podium say about our time here in public service, about our opportunity to do something meaningful for our country and our people? The answer is within your hands. The work you do does matter. Government remains the single most powerful tool to do good, to make a positive difference, to leave our beloved Philippines better than how we came upon it. That was the ethos of Manong Joe de Venecia. As for Manong Joe, his record speaks for itself. He was the man in the arena. Win, lose, or draw, he was consequential. And a worthy man of this house that he loved so much. Maraming salamat for your service, Manong Joe. God bless you. Thank you.
Eulogy by Ambassador Teodoro L. Locsin Jr., Ambassador of the Republic of the Philippines to the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and concurrent jurisdiction over Isle of Man and bailiwicks of Guernsey and Jersey. Special Envoy of the President to China for Special Concerns, former Secretary of the Department of Foreign Affairs, and former representative of the 1st District of Makati in the 12th, 13th, and 14th Congress.
Thank you. As usual, something that Joe DeV would expect from me feels beyond my ability to do it justice. I balk to speak in this great hall where we members of Congresses past spent our most productive lives. But knowing how hard Joe himself worked to achieve the near impossible, with only his sad eyes showing the toll on himself, I cannot shy away from the challenge to honor him as he deserves by recalling those aspects of Joe it was our good luck and great honor to witness and luckier to be part of. Joe was and will remain the longest serving Speaker of the House and the best. And it wasn't by the grace of the powers that be at the time. It was because the best chief executives knew that only the best will get the hardest jobs done. Joe got the most important legislation passed by Congress to this day. To name a handful, the strictest anti-money laundering law in any statute book in the world, the reacquisition of Philippine citizenship law, allowing fellow Filipinos to have a better life in countries of strangers, and yet retain Philippine citizenship and still get Philippine protection outside its jurisdiction. It is not that the Philippines is feared, but that Filipinos are deeply respected as caring, dependable, and dedicated workers, especially in times of peril. Filipinos stayed in Kuwait when it was taken over by Saddam's armies to protect their employers' properties. There were other key legislative proposals Joe passed or buried. With an approving wink of his eye, he let Ronnie Zamora and I mangle a Wall Street legislative proposal to turn bad debts into tradable securities guaranteed to fail. A suicidal proposal to trade defaulted debts worth less than nothing and yet turn a profit. Between us, Ronnie and I alternated in arguing for and against a provision, against and for the next one. We came up with a bill in which every paragraph was contradicted by the paragraph succeeding it. And summa total, the final bill was unimplementable and yet it sailed through the Senate. Wall Street remained clueless and was even a bit impressed. Joe smiled at our work.